Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Mike Piwowarski. I will be your host today. I am the host from the East Coast, the coast with the most from the host with the most, here on the Rundown, where we give you two-way views of conservative news. But I don't do this program by myself.
No, you do not, sir. My name is Craig DeLuz, and I am from the West Coast, the left coast, behind the Iron Curtain, otherwise known as the Sierras. And I will make it a point to say that no, I am not a lefty. I just happen to be in the left in the belly of the beast. But once again, my name is Craig DeLuz, and I'll be coming at you from California. Mikey, what'd you do with all the bourbon? You
Oh.
um, you're not in location Bravo, I guess.
I am not in location Bravo. I am. I don't know if you can see how red my face is today. I've been out at the air show all day today, just doing airplane stuff and helicopter stuff and toys and gizmos and just having a good time. It's a week long event and it's been canceled for most of the week because of the weather. And today the front finally rolled through. It's 60, 70 degrees out here, and we're having a blast out here doing airplane stuff.
Phenomenal. Well, sir, I am so very happy for you, and I am sure that I'm sure that Location Bravo is missing you.
I'm sure it is, but we brought some of its children with us, so we're okay out here. Um, Craig, I do want to point out one thing today. While at the air show,
Mhm.
exercising my Second Amendment rights responsibly.
Nice, nice, nice,
Yep, yep,
excellent.
yep,
That is
yep,
always good to hear, sir. Always good to hear.
yep, yep, yep. Good stuff, good stuff. So, how was your day, sir?
The day has been phenomenal. Fridays are always kind of interesting because I always try to make them light days, and they always wind up tending to be heavy
Yeah,
days. Except today has been surprisingly light, so it's been fun. I'm looking forward to a nice, relaxing weekend.
good. That's good. Yeah, I hate when you want a nice light flow and you get that heavy flow. It's not something you you should plan better for that. You should plan always have supplies available.
Always have
Um,
supplies available.
yeah, you never know. You never listen. You might be traveling down the road, and boom, the world just comes at you, and you only got a quarter tank of gas. Now you gotta deal with it. You gotta deal with it.
Oh,
So
dude, man, look,
always be prepared.
you have not lived till you've driven your car on low E.
Yeah, and you got a hybrid, so I don't even know how that would work. it's, it's,
That's living dangerously, bruh. Living dangerously.
Unless, at least in my truck, I get that little space below E. Like when it hits E and the buzzer goes on, the family's like, "Oh, you got to get gas." I'm like, "No, no, I got at least 2 millimeters more.
See
I can keep going." I
that's
can,
life on low E. See, some
yeah,
people don't get that. My wife doesn't get that. She's like, look, as soon as you hit below half a tank, you need to fill up.
right, yeah, yeah. Well, I get that in my house, and they just sit at home and go, "It's below half a tank. You need to take my car," because
Oh,
that means I got to go fill them up with gas. Yeah. I can't tell you the one time I got in my wife's car that had more than half a tank in it, I didn't know what to do. I thought maybe somebody else had borrowed the car.
oh no, I will tell you what's funny is that if something were to ever to happen to me, I don't know if my wife would ever be able to drive anywhere because I don't know if she knows how to put gas in the car.
Yeah,
It's been so
she would have.
long.
Yeah, why should she? She got you. Yeah, and it's amazing. Your daughter's married with her own husband and child, but she still expects you to put gas in her car too.
Oh, that is hilarious. But no, my daughter definitely knows how to. She has learned.
Oh boy! Oh boy! Oh
All
boy!
right, time to get into the news, sir.
We shall. We shall. President Biden has been talking this week. He's been making a lot of overtures for gun rights. Excuse me, for gun policies, more gun restrictions, and more anti-gun nonsense. We know this. We saw what happened out in Sacramento. And Craig, he wants to create more gun laws that are already in place out there. He wants to create things that were already in place in California that would have prevented that shooting, but he wants to do those laws to help stop shootings. But this week, as part of his overall plan to help tackle the gun violence problem, he's looking at a new director of the AFT. Is it the AFT here? So he's got a new guy in mind. This guy's name, I want to make sure I say it right, is Dettelbach. Dettelbach. There we go. Dettelbach. Now, he's a former politician out of Ohio, which is kind of a conservative state. So it's odd that this guy was over there fighting for his life, trying to become the attorney general in Ohio as a Democrat. He has clearly said and made his policies known when it comes to being anti-gun and wanting to take the guns out of hands of individuals. He is another David Waco Kid Chipman. Now, this guy does not come from the ATF background. He comes from the political background, from the lawyer background, and he wants your guns gone. It's clear. You can go to his Twitter sites. It's still up. He has not taken it down yet, like Chipman did, and he wants to take your firearms away from you. Listen, if you don't think the ATF is ready and standing by to take your firearms and infringe on your Second Amendment rights, they're kidding yourself. They've been waiting, and their plan's been under this administration is to put a new director in charge of the AFT. Put a new director in charge of the AFT, because that way that agency would finally have a little teeth. Remember, they're still operating with temporary people from other agencies, people from below that don't want the job. So they don't have the teeth, and quite frankly, they'd probably be laughed out of court and laughed out of many situations if they tried to step up and say, we're going to be doing national enforcement on this, because they'd have no boss, nobody to represent them. So getting this director and head of ATF is very important to their anti-gun agenda before they roll it out in force.
Well, exactly. I mean, you've in essence got an entity that's supposed to be nonpartisan, that's supposed to be non-political, and their number one goal under this president is going to be to confiscate our firearms and to end our Second Amendment rights. Much like the CDC, which once again is supposed to be nonpartisan, not supposed to be non-biased, but yet they have an activist agenda. This is not supposed to be the role of these departments. They're supposed to enforce the law, not create law, and not seek to enforce what their quote unquote idea of justice is. And when you have someone who is clearly an activist, this guy is clearly an activist, much the same way that David Chipman was. No, they should not be heading a department that is supposed to be about administering the law when it comes to a fundamental right.
Yeah, when this guy ran for attorney general there in Ohio, he was supported at the time by Obama. He was supported by Joe Biden. He was supported by Everytown for Gun Safety. He was supported by the Bloomberg Group. I mean, this guy is clearly in the pockets, the big money pockets of the anti-gun crowd.
Oh yeah, and it is, once again, it is. He needs to be opposed, and I don't know why they can't just find someone who's just going to administer the department. I don't get that, but hey, they want an activist. They're going to have to fight for him. And I have a feeling they think that because they didn't get Chipman that they can squeeze this guy through. And I just don't see that. I really do believe Republicans need to stand their ground on this guy. He may not be as high profile as Chipman, but he's just as bad.
Yeah, and they shall. And I think they'll hold him back as well. And listen, maybe they even hold him back as long as after the midterms, because we'll see how that goes. Maybe not, but it's definitely one that we need to keep a watch for, because it's going to be, again, it's part of their greater agenda for rolling items out. There'll be much more teeth behind it if they have their own director of ATF in there. So definitely something we have to keep an eye out for.
Most definitely.
Craig, let's roll on. We talked earlier this week about the January 6th insurrection, right? Insurrection in DC. By the way, Craig, do you watch the Law and Order series on TV?
I have not been watching the new Law and Order series yet. I think I've tuned into one episode and hasn't caught on with me yet.
I'll tell you what, it's great to see Jack McCoy back, right? Because right. he's Jack McCoy, a little bit older, but he's still Jack McCoy. The SVU, the one with was it Mariska Haggerty, and I'm not trying to mispronounce her name. I don't know how to do it. Christopher Maloney used to be her partner. Now he's got his own TV show. The one with the Marista on it is so liberal and so politically biased. It's hard to watch. It really is. Well, the new Law and Order has been going okay the past. It's been on. I think yesterday was the 5th episode.
Okay.
Well, they made a reference to, and they kind of went after like a Rush Limbaugh kind of person.
Mm-hmm.
But they made a reference to the January 6th murders at the Capitol. Now, I get that it's TV and it's fiction, but they continue to throw those little liberal digs in there, you know. So,
Well, the liberal
uh,
nuns, because as we all know, there was only really one death, one murder at the Capitol that day, and
that's right.
it was not a Capitol policeman. It was not, and it was, by the way, the perpetrator was not a Trump supporter. Well, it was a Capitol policeman.
Yeah, I think it was a uniformed Secret Service officer, if I
Yes,
recall. Yeah.
yes. So
Um,
just so y'all
yeah.
know.
Yeah, and I guess listen, the people out in Hollywood, they don't get it. If you're watching a Law and Order criminal television show, not just the title Law and Order, but the criminal justice system, you're probably conservatives watching that. So every time you make those one of those little digs, you lose more of your audience. So you may
Exactly.
want to think about that. You may want to think about that. Anyway, in reference to we talked earlier this week about the judge there, Judge McFadden, a Trump appointee, who dismissed a case because they said, "Hey, listen, I just followed the crowd through. I didn't do anything. And when I was inside, I was taking pictures." And the judge, it was a bench trial, the judge listened to the story and said, "Okay, you're found not guilty." Well, same judge, as of yesterday, one of the women that was pled out earlier in the year to misdemeanor, it was she pled out to one of the misdemeanors, Greg, one of the misdemeanors that said she trespassed on Capitol grounds. Well, she's gotten some threats. So she went to the judge and said, "I'd like to get the probation standard of no firearms taken away because I've received threats and I want the opportunity to protect myself under the Second Amendment." And he said, "Hey, looking at Heller, D.C. As my case reference, it says everybody except violent felons or the domestic violence abusers or common felon criminals should not have the right to have firearms, but it doesn't say anything about the average misdemeanant, as I think is how he termed it. So he granted her Second Amendment rights back while she's still on misdemeanor probation, and that has got a lot of people up in arms. And you're listen, Craig. I think this one happened so late this week that we're
Hmm.
probably not going to hear about this making the front page news until early next week. But
Well, you
this
mean to
is this
tell
is a
me
great sign.
you mean to tell me that misdemeanor trespassing is not a prohibiting offense?
That's what this judge said. He said, "I don't care if she's been convicted of this crime. It's a misdemeanor, nonviolent offense, and there's no reason she should not have her Second Amendment rights."
Well, exactly. Well, but see that, and that's what when you lose your rights, it ought to be for something serious. And the problem is
Yes.
that there are a number of people who are probably agreeing to these plea deals. Once again, being in the Capitol, illegally, misdemeanor, yada yada yada.
Right. Right.
And by the way, that had she gone to court, probably would have been acquitted.
Yes.
We've now seen that that's the case. That chances are
Yeah.
probably would have been acquitted as long as once again they don't have evidence of you destroying any property or anything like that.
Yeah.
Chances are you would have gotten off.
Folks, if you remember, she's the one which during her trial or during her plea agreement, when we saw some of the notes from it, she wore a bulletproof vest or some sort of sweatshirt that had some ballistic barrier material sewn into it. It wasn't real clear, but she was asked about that when she went in front of this judge to get her Second Amendment rights restored, and he said, "Why did you wear a vest that could be viewed as you were looking to do danger?" And her response was, "No, I anticipated that there might be bad actors there, so I wore it to protect myself." And the judge said, "I find that reason valid. Here you go. Here's your Second Amendment rights back," showing the pattern that she wants to protect herself.
Well, but that is the position of people who generally tend to go and get their concealed carry permits, who you carry a firearm, and once again,
Yes.
if you're going to wear something ballistic, it's not because your plan is to cause harm, is that there is
Right.
an expectation that there could be danger, that there could be, like you said, bad actors. And to make it like, okay, well, because you want to defend yourself from bad actors, you now yourself are in fact labeled a bad actor, that just
Right.
makes no sense.
You're exactly right. And this judge, this pro Second Amendment Trump appointed judge, saw it that way and said, "Here you go. Second Amendment rights back for you."
Boom, pow. Like
Yeah, boom,
that.
pow. And just like that. Just like that. Yeah. there's a lot of people there now. Now all of a sudden that I think are ready to go to trial.
Well, and
That were pending. So,
quite frankly, I think that's what we needed
yeah,
because we need people to understand exactly. Most of these 700 people are not being charged with anything serious. Well, let me clarify. They're not being charged. None of them are being charged with insurrection. Most of them are
right.
not being charged with any real serious or felonies. What they've done in many cases is they've overcharged, and then they're going to them like they did with this lady with plea deals and said, "Tell you what, we're not going to charge you with any of these major crimes. We'll give you a criminal trespassing on federal property, and we'll give you probation, and you'll be able to get off." And the goal is they want to be able to say, "Oh yeah, we convicted 90% of the people who were, who were arrested for the Capitol insurrection." But what they won't tell you is that they overcharged them so that they could get them to plea and get no jail time, but they get a feather in their cap and they get a win, and that's what this is really all about.
Yeah, and the 90% that they've charged, Craig, were the tour takers, I call them, the ones that
Yes,
wandered through, when the doors are open. The 10% that did the breaking down barriers and busting down doors, we've seen none of them be
right.
charged. We've seen none of them been arrested. And those are the ones we know, Craig, for the most part, were either the bad actors or the ones that followed the bad actors in and got into the spirit of things for whatever reason. But we have not seen those. We've seen the average everyday, oh, look, it's open and the cops holding the door. Those people.
Well, it's interesting because I think we will eventually hear about who these people are, who are the ones who are engaged in the violent acts.
Right.
Um, and I think when we do, I think many on the left are going to be surprised about who they actually are, about who many of them actually are. Because I'm going to also be very realistic. I do believe that some of our folks were engaged and
They
they got
were.
caught up in it
Sure.
and they were
Yep.
involved in it because,
Yeah.
all sides have bad actors. And I believe that some
Yeah.
of our folks got caught up in it. But I also do believe there were instigators there were bad actors who were there instigating that behavior.
There were, and agreed completely, Craig. It's we had the instigators there, and those are the ones I think we'll never see get charged. And then we had the people from the other side. And listen, it's that crowd mentality.
Yeah.
When the crowd starts to do things, you follow the crowd. It's just this crowd was so large that the people in the rear of the crowd had no idea what was going on in the front of the crowd. So
Yep.
maybe some of the people in the front of the crowd did help break down a door, but like this woman and the guy from yesterday, they had no idea. They were 500 people removed, so they just walked through an open door.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Craig, let's move on. Speaking of crimes, I want to talk to you about the career of Jimmy Kimmel. That should be a crime in itself. Do you remember this this guy being back on the Man Show and they had the juggy dancers and girls on trampolines. Remember how aggressive he was towards females. Remember how disrespectful he was towards them.
Yes, I do remember. I didn't watch the show that much, but
Okay.
I do remember seeing I do remember seeing the clips as some folks would share some of the more outrageous stuff that he did on his show, and there was no shortage of it.
And listen, it was done in the name of comedy. It was done in the
Right.
name of comedy at the expense of women, though. It wasn't like it was a joke everybody sat around. I mean, he did one skit where they went out and petitioned to end women's suffrage because they said women have suffraged too much. And and they got people to sign it. And he thought it was the greatest, funniest thing in the world. But evidently, now he's the savior of women, and none of that we should take seriously. Oh, those were just jokes. Those were just jokes. Well, this past week, he made a comment up there about MJT, right? Is it MJ, right? MJ. Where's the clip? Okay,
MTG.
MTG. What? Marjorie Taylor Greene, right?
Yes.
MTG. Okay, all right. I don't know why I keep getting her initials wrong. Marjorie Taylor Greene. She she does her typical thing. She goes out there, and we know she's extremely on the right side. Well, Jimmy Kimmel made a comment about some of her actions and said, "Where's Will Smith when you need him?" Now, listen, I understand, and I get the reference to the joke that Will Smith's out there slapping people, right? So he wanted to see why couldn't Will Smith slap her. Now, he did not direct anybody to go slap her. I'll say that if you want to go and draw that line, Jimmy Kimmel did not direct anybody to go slap Marjorie Taylor Greene. However, she took it as an aggressive, a suggestion. So she reported it to the Capitol Police. Allegedly, we don't have any confirmation from the Capitol Police, but she reported it to the Capitol Police. And Kimmel's response was
in the event that Will Smith showed up at the Capitol.
Yes, exactly right.
in the event that he followed his marching orders. Okay.
Yes.
Much the same way, if Donald Trump said, "Let's fight for our rights," and people showed up at the U.S. Capitol.
Yes.
Jimmy Kimmel has that kind of power.
Right.
Okay, good.
Right. Well, you know what? Out there in La La Land, you tell me he doesn't. Tell me he couldn't get people to march on a ridiculous cause. I mean, I think
once
he could.
Again, Mike, if Donald Trump can be accused of doing that very same thing and can be impeached for telling people to fight, even though he said do it peacefully, telling people to fight, and then Jimmy Kimmel makes the insinuation that Will Smith needs to go slap Marjorie Taylor Greene.
Yep.
What's the difference? Except one's president and one's a failed comedian.
Exactly. But the darling of the left, isn't he?
There you go. I'm sorry. Go ahead, please continue your story.
No, quite all right. So he makes this suggestion. She says to the police, "Listen, this sounds like a threat, whether it's a veiled threat or a plain threat. It sounds threatening." His response the next day, he tweets out, is, "Officer, can I tell you a joke?" or something along those lines. So he continues to make fun of the situation. Well, and that was, so you had the two of them tete-a-tete back and forth. Then Congressman Matt Gaetz gets involved and says, "I don't understand how Jimmy Kimmel can disrespect women. Just come out, she's the we need to recognize that women are the weaker sex." And I think he said that because MTG is like 5 foot tall. Okay. Nobody's calling them the weaker mentally or anything like that, but in a physical stature between MTG and Jimmy Kimmel, well, maybe not Jimmy Kimmel, but an average man, she is 5 feet tall.
You mean
right?
a man?
A man, yeah, exactly. So I think that's the point Matt Gaetz was trying to make. And then he also said, he stepped back and he goes, "Well, he's lucky that Jimmy Kimmel's lucky that his spouse, or that MTG's spouse, wasn't there when this happened, because that would have been the end of the story." And then Matt said, "Well, actually, MTG probably could have taken Kimmel." Yeah. So
are you saying that she would have Will Smith Jimmy Kimmel?
Yep, that's exactly right. And MTG's husband would have gone up there and said, "Keep your wife's name out of my effing mouth."
Keep your wife's name out of my effing mouth.
Or my wife's name. Whatever. There would have been some Jimmy Kimmel slapping going on. All right.
There you go.
So the question becomes, Craig, is this okay to do on one side, on the left side, but not okay to do on the right? Is that what we're seeing here?
Because you got to understand,
okay for the left to do this?
But Mike, you have to understand, to the folks on the left, us on the right, we are not human, right? Yeah. We are all bad people. We are evil people. And therefore, whatever you do to us that is bad or evil, or that is nonsensical, or that is rude, or that you say about us that fit any of those things, or that are violent, is okay in their eyes, because, well, we are bad, evil people. Whereas we see it as, look, you treat people like people. Even if I disagree with you, there's a certain level of treatment that all of us as human beings are deserved of. And by the way, my disagreement with you, even my vehement disagreement with you, does not equate to me being violent towards you. But once again, they don't see it that way, Mike. And that's the sad part, is that there is a disparate treatment in terms of how we see things. I don't necessarily see someone on the other side as an evil, bad person. I just see them as wrong. Now, I'm not saying that there aren't evil, bad people on the other side. I'm just saying that that's not the first thing that I go to.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. And maybe it's not the first thing Will Smith goes to either. Oh, no, wait, it is. I'm sorry. It directly is.
Well, when your wife looks at you like, "Honey, handle this."
Yeah. Yeah. That's how you react when you love a woman that doesn't love you.
Oh yeah, I saw. Definitely saw that one. Definitely saw that one.
Speaking of Will Smith, Craig, you owe me $20. I told you by this Friday, by today, we would find out he was in some sort of rehab program. And as of
Oh
yesterday, it's
no,
being
that was
reported in the.
last week. That was you're like a week. You're like a week behind, and
Are you?
he's going to rehab. And okay, so folks here, let me put the story up. He says he's going to rehab, right? Or at least that's what the piece says. This I don't know. I still do not know who exactly this Marca thing is that you have sent over this website. I think it's a French website. Which who
Well,
believes anything the
perhaps if you
French
let
has
me
to say?
finish before you jumped on top of me, I could have given you the background on the story. But no, you wanted to jump in and slap me in the face in front of everybody.
No, I was not trying to slap you in the face. You trying to say I owe you money?
Here's the deal. I said it would be. I said he would be in rehab by Friday. I didn't say which Friday. I said he'd be in rehab
Oh,
by Friday. So
you said within a week.
I did say a week. So you know what? Just pay me. Just pay me half. Just pay me half.
So according to
We'll
the
do that.
story here, it says he's going to a celebrity rehab clinic, but they're saying he's just going there to learn how to deal with stress. Now, Mike,
Yeah,
what
and
stress is he going there to deal with?
Well, and that's the tricky part, right? And this is being reported over in Europe. This in the Sun. This is being reported in French newspaper over in Italia as well. So this is somehow I don't know. Maybe he's over there doing his rehab, but it's being reported in European newspapers right now. Craig, it doesn't say he's going in for anger management. It says, like you said, he's going in for stress, and the way it describes it in the article, it's the stress of how to deal with his current situation. So it's not the stress of I got anger and romance issues. It's how do I deal with this? Now, maybe that'll all wrap back up. Maybe somebody got misquoted because we were talking about multiple languages here, but Will Smith has entered rehab.
The
So
thing,
there you go.
the number one thing you are right about was one, he is entering rehab, and then number two, he's doing it as a see, I'm doing something
Exactly right.
move,
Yep, yep.
and that's really all it is.
That's right, and that's why it's still worth you paying me half because that's exactly what I said.
Right. We'll just tell you what, put that on my tab.
I will. I will. I don't drink tab. I drink regular soda. But that works. All right, Craig. This one's great. I think this is the move of the week by Governor Abbott, who's still trying to earn your vote back because there's some great candidates there running in Texas right now. But the Fiesta bus is what I call it. Governor Abbott is finding immigrants that have come through that the feds have dumped on him. Now, these are not ones that they're like picking up at the border of the Texas authorities. These are ones that the federal government has sent into Texas. And he's finding volunteers. Make sure this is clear on this. The governor is not mandating this or arresting people. He's finding volunteers and saying, how would you like to start your new life in another location around the country? Oh, yeah, senor. Good. We're going to send you to Washington, D.C. You can go thank the president in person for your admission. So he's getting volunteers, putting them on buses and sending them straight to D.C. to the corner of, I don't know, 8th and I Street and just letting them out and saying, here you go. Have a good time. Brilliant.
Well, luckily, I hope he's not telling them that it's one of the most expensive places in the world to live. Because if he isn't, or if he is, then they're going to decide, yeah, no, I'm not going to go. And then some of them are going to wind up going across the border over into Virginia and possibly, becoming voters there for the Democratic Party.
Well, listen, if he goes to D.C., it should be a lot easier for them to get their checks. Remember every immigrant that came over, we were going to give a big old check to. Now they can go get it hand delivered. They don't even have to worry about getting themselves a P.O. box.
No, they do not. No, they do not. Well, once again, I just think that this just goes back to, look, this is a problem that is being created in many states that's being created by Washington, D.C. Let Washington, D.C. deal with it.
Exactly right. They got big, beautiful, grassy areas and monuments. They can let all those homeless people live there. Why not?
There you go. There you go. I'm 100% down for that.
Yeah, yeah.
All right, Mike. Well,
Very
hey,
good,
it's about
very
time
good.
for our parting shot.
I sent you like 12. Yeah, I sent you like 12, so I don't know which ones you picked. I'll let you intro those.
All right. Well, this one once again just goes back to the whole Florida story and the parental rights and education bill, and the fact that Florida teachers, several of them are mad about it and talking about walking off the job. Here's one. If it takes a law to stop you from holding a classroom discussion with 5-year-olds about sex, you shouldn't be a teacher. Actually, you shouldn't be allowed within several miles of a school. That
Right?
makes sense.
Yeah.
That makes total
Yeah.
sense. And then the second one is also along those same lines. It shows, is that Rudger Hauer? Or who is that?
I don't know. That might be. Yeah. I
It
noticed
looks
that.
like it
Yeah.
could be Rutger Hauer, sound asleep with a smile on his
Yeah.
face for those of you who are just listening to the audio version of the show. And it says, "How I sleep knowing teachers in Florida will have to teach kindergartners ABCs and not LGBTs." Once again, folks,
There you go.
this is not about whether or not we're teaching, it's not about teaching about homosexuality or heterosexuality. It's about not teaching sexuality to small kids.
Exactly right. Yeah. There's got no business talking sex to 5-year-olds, 6-year-olds, 7-year-olds, 8-year-olds, whatever it is. If they're going to teach it in high school and your school board allows it, let them teach it there. But that's involving parent input and parents teaching, but definitely not jumping the gun and trying to brainwash. Craig, it's amazing, and I'm not trying to say that there's any connection to this, but the only crowd we see objecting to this is the LGBT crowd. We don't see the hetero crowd objecting to this. And I don't get the tie. It's almost as if you listen in LGBT. They're like, to make a joke, they're like vegans. How do you know they're a vegan? Don't worry, they'll tell you. It's the LGBT that they want so much, or CrossFit people. How do you know they do CrossFit? They tell you.
Right.
It's like the LGBT. They want to be accepted so fast and so quick that they're going to start teaching everybody, including 5-year-olds. That way, that it'll be on the forefront of every generation.
And by the way, for those of you who say, well, this is about civil rights, look, this is about sexuality. How do we know it's about sexuality?
Yes.
Because the only difference here is we're talking about who you choose to sleep with, right?
Yeah.
Who you are sexually attracted to. So how is it not about sex and sexuality? And once again, there is an age-appropriate time to start talking about sexuality, and third grade is not it. Just saying. Okay, with that, Mikey, why don't you go ahead and, maybe I'll just go ahead and Mike, why don't you go ahead and give us a quick shout out to our sponsors?
Let's say hi to our good friends at Gorilla Machining, Grid Defense, and of course, the fine folks at the California Republican Assembly.
Yes, folks, once again, as we always tell you, please make sure, visit them. Their links are in the description of our video. Visit them. If you like what you see there, and I know you will, kick them down a few bucks and walk away with either a cool membership or some cool products. But as you do so, please make sure you let them know it's the guys over at the Rundown that sent you. With that, want to encourage you, please make sure to like, share, subscribe, and encourage your friends to do the same. And with that, we'll call it a fine Feedback Friday.
Good stuff. I'm going back to the air show. I get nighttime stuff.
Have fun, sir. We'll talk to you all on
See you
Monday.
later.